Dancing in Rome's famous Trevi fountain in a wet black dress, she was a flawless Nordic goddess inviting the world to sin. Welcome to Iconic Lives. Today, we will discuss the dark story of Anita Ekberg, the tragic sex symbol who laughed at Vatican excommunication threats, attacked paparazzi with a bow and arrow, shook Italy with her forbidden billionaire romances, but ultimately died entirely alone and completely penniless in a wheelchair at the very end of her sad life. When she was born in the cold and gloomy Swedish city of Malmö, as the daughter of a deeply poor family with 8 children, her fate was sealed. Growing up in the shadow of a highly authoritarian and loveless father ignited that massive fire of rebellion in her soul. She knew very well that she had only one chance to escape that freezing cold and suffocating life full of strict rules: her flawless, voluptuous physique and seductive wild beauty. She made her body a brutal weapon. After being crowned Miss Sweden and stepping foot in America, the predatory and dark world of Hollywood immediately wanted to swallow her whole. Famous obsessed billionaire Howard Hughes became infatuated with her at first sight. He shamelessly proposed altering her nose and teeth through plastic surgery, aiming to make her a controlled sex slave. However, Anita ruthlessly rejected that disgusting offer. She felt sickened by the idea of being a totally fake plastic Hollywood doll. When she won a Golden Globe Award, she turned into the darkest fantasies of the American dream with her massive breasts and absolutely flawless curves. The most legendary actors, such as Frank Sinatra, Gary Cooper, and Tyrone Power, were crushing each other just to get this ice-cold Nordic queen into their beds. However, she was bitterly aware that men only ever desired her physical body. Her beauty opened heavy doors, but it also trapped her inside a tragic cage made of flesh. Her first marriage to English actor Anthony Steele turned into the most terrifying and brutal nightmare of her life. Steele was an incurable heavy alcoholic and was insanely jealous of Anita's massive fame. Those violent fights behind closed doors, broken items in hotel rooms, and slaps to the face were the dirty secrets of this marriage. While smiling brightly for the cameras during the day, Anita desperately escaped the physical and psychological torture of a drunk man at night. When she starred in Federico Fellini's masterpiece, La Dolce Vita, she created one of the most iconic moments in cinema history. Those seconds when she entered the Trevi fountain and called Marcello Mastroianni immortalized her forever. However, those wet and provocative scenes completely infuriated the Catholic Church. The Vatican declared that this movie spread extreme immorality. Anita was branded by the clergy as a demonic sinner who violently corrupted the entire society. That passionate and forbidden love affair she had with the heir to the Fiat Empire, Gianni Agnelli, while still married, was a massive scandal that shook all of Italy. She secretly met with one of the richest men in the world in hotel rooms and spent passionate nights. But all hell broke loose when they were busted half-naked by paparazzi one night. While the Italian high society was deeply shaken by this betrayal, this dirty relationship dominated the dark newspaper headlines. Her massive war with the paparazzi was one of the bloodiest and fiercest challenges in the history of cinema. She hated the photographers who violated her private life every second so much that she attacked the paparazzi raiding her house using a real bow and arrow. Those targeted arrows were absolute proof of what a deadly and uncontrolled monster she could turn into when her boundaries were crossed. She was a wild lioness who refused to be crushed by those heavy camera flashes. In the deeply corrupt nightlife of Rome, she was the #1 object of desire for limitless orgies and drug-filled secret parties. She showed up at the perverse parties held in the dark villas of Roman high society, always staying right at the center of those dirty games played over her body. While men saw her merely as a wild sexual fantasy in bed, she used this dirty attention to satisfy her ego and to desperately fill that massive dark emotional void inside her sad soul. Her second marriage to actor Rick Van Nutter ruthlessly shattered not only her soul, but also her bank accounts. This marriage was a cleverly planned scam rather than true love. Her husband and dark financial advisors secretly stole the massive fortune Anita had earned with her own body and blood over the years. Falling in love with the wrong men forced her to pay that deadly heavy price by completely losing all her hard-earned money and huge global wealth. As she aged, that flawless and fresh Nordic beauty slowly began to fade away. Hollywood and Italian cinema were ruthless vampires that only ever desired young and firm flesh. Her sagging body and the deep lines on her face were an absolute death warrant for her. For a woman so accustomed to the toxic drug of fame and being fiercely desired, looking at that aging face in the mirror was literal psychological torture. As her beauty faded, she slowly sank into the deep, dark shadows. While living in her luxurious mansion in Rome, fate struck her with its most brutal blows one after another. A massive and terrifying fire in her house ruthlessly turned all her remaining memories and valuable belongings into ashes. Just months after the fire, thieves broke into her house and stole the last jewels that had survived. She was once the most desired, iconic woman in the world, but now she was a trapped, attacked, and totally helpless victim inside her own dark home. Her stolen fortune, old age, and increasing physical ailments practically nailed her to a wheelchair. The goddess who once danced in Roman fountains with those massive curves was now a paralyzed woman unable to take a step, in desperate need of others' pity. Her severe poverty reached such a terrifying level that she had to secretly beg the Federico Fellini Foundation for financial help to survive. The golden cage of fame had broken, leaving only cold and absolute dark misery. Those billionaires, actors, and directors who crushed each other for her flawless body in her youth vanished instantly when she became sick and ugly. None of them even visited her in that dark, lonely hospital room. That toxic men's club, which only viewed women as mere objects of consumption, ruthlessly threw Anita in the trash like an old, worthless toy when she was done. She was paying the heavy price of men's totally fake love, with a completely cold and very lonely old age. She never became a mother throughout her entire life. She postponed the idea of starting a family for those wild parties, endless forbidden affairs, and deep career ambition. When left completely alone in a wheelchair, that massive bleeding regret of this decision began to gnaw at her sad soul. Adorning the dreams of millions of men had not given her a child to give her water when she aged. Her inner silence screamed that fame was a completely fake and a very terrible dark lie. She spent her final years in a cold, neglected clinic for the destitute near Rome. Her mind had begun to cloud, and her memory started to forget those former glorious days. She was completely abandoned, except for a few distant relatives who visited occasionally. In that tiny room where her own youth photos hung on the walls, she was a desperate ghost waiting to die. The massive legend of Italian cinema was now just an elderly, suffering patient getting her diapers changed. She always deeply and openly rejected those freezing cold lands where she was born, namely Sweden. While the Swedish press accused her of extreme immorality and humiliated her at every given opportunity, she practically hated her own country in return. Even on her dark deathbed, she absolutely never wanted to return to Sweden. She saw herself as a true Italian, but Italy ruthlessly threw her out when she aged. She was a rootless, deeply wounded, and a highly tragic woman. On the morning of January 11, 2015, that deeply tired, sickly, and completely broken-hearted body gave up forever. She died at the age of 83, heavily in debt, confined to a wheelchair, and far away from the cruel eye of the world, in dark loneliness. None of those fake friends from those former glorious parties attended her funeral. That cold coffin, sent off by a few people, was the bloodiest proof of what a disgusting, use-and-throw meat market the cinema industry really is. The waters of the Trevi fountain flowed again after she died, but her beautiful body had long turned to dust. Her flawless beauty was actually her absolute biggest curse. That perfect body gave her the entire world, but when that same body rotted away, it ruthlessly took everything back. That wild monster called fame loudly applauds young and beautiful girls at the top, but leaves them to starve in dark cells when they age. Anita Ekberg was its most iconic and tragic victim. Anita Ekberg was a goddess who desperately fought to survive in men's toxic fantasy world, but was ultimately completely consumed. As iconic lives, today we expose the stolen fortunes, ruthless rape slanders, arrows shot at paparazzi, and that tragic loneliness in a wheelchair behind that wet dress. She is a lost queen who paid the extremely heavy price of massive fame with pure misery. Stay with the dark truths and the bloody face of those immortal legends. Goodbye, friends.